Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back into another weekly dose of the rundown. Of course, I'm joined by none other than Mr. 305 himself. I know it's Liddy over there right now. How you doing, Kayson Davis? Whoa, wrong drop. Whatever.
Drop, drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. That's fine. Uh, yeah, I mean, I guess it would have been super lit if COVID and stuff wasn't going on, but it's still lit anyways. You see the excitement in the air.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen like some Cubans, a video of some Cubans like driving down the road, like banging on pots and pans and stuff like that after Miami broke through to the finals. So it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I don't know if you guys could tell, but I got a Heat jersey on. I got a specific Heat jersey on. There's motives to what I do. You know what I'm saying? But I'll get into that later. You feel me? But how you want to start off with that? Like, what's up?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we kind of already into it, so we might as well start off with, I guess, the biggest news right now.
So yeah, the Los Angeles Lakers versus the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals. The courts were unveiled. The court was unveiled this morning. It looks fantastic. By the way, I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but yeah, it looks fantastic. Um, it's gonna be a fun series. So I mean, let's start off with the recap. The Los Angeles Lakers close out the Denver Nuggets in 5 games. You know, no 3-1 comeback for Denver there, and it was I guess that was a tough one for Denver, just off the fact that, had they stopped Anthony Davis from making that late shot in, was that game 2? It's possible the series ends up being 2-2. But the other unfortunate thing for the Denver Nuggets, I don't think we really got to see them at like full velocity, if that makes sense, because they spent 2 series coming back from 3-1. By the time they faced the Los Angeles Lakers, even in the valiant performances that they were able to have against them, like they just really didn't have as much in the tank, having to play all those games. So uh, with the culmination of having to deal with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Rajon Rondo was definitely frustrating the heck out of Jamal Murray as well. So
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, I mean, they still put up kind of a fight. I mean, when Nick went down 3-1, I'm like, maybe they're exactly where they wanted to be, but it was either the Lakers winning a series in 4-0 was going to continue, or them coming back from 3-1 was going to continue. So yeah, it was still a good series, like you said. If they end up stopping AD at the end of that game two, you made things may look maybe a little different. We might be in like a game 6. I doubt it'll probably win 7, but we might be in like a game 6. Still, it was a great run for them. No matter how you look at it, I think it's a successful season for them. I mean, coming in, not a lot of people would expected them getting into the conference final, especially not taking the Los Angeles Clippers out. So I think it's a successful season for them. The future's still bright for them. Michael Porter Jr. is only going to get better. Bobo, some of the young players and stuff. So it wasn't this year, but I still see bright things for them in the future.
yeah, I think that's a team that's got a championship in their future with the way that they've been put together. Mike Malone is a very good head coach, and they just keep getting better and better every year. They lost in the semifinals in 7 games last year. They love playing 7 games, by the way. Last year the Spurs in 7, took out the Spurs in 7, then lose to Portland in 7, and this year, go the full 7 games of Utah, go full 7 games of the Clippers, and yeah, so they keep getting better. You got some emerging stars over there with Jamal Murray. I think Michael Porter Jr. is finally starting to hit his stride. I want to see what he looks like moving forward in a fuller season now outside of the bubble atmosphere. Because, like I was saying, I felt like a lot of guys that are putting up big numbers in the bubble reminded me of guys who do certain things in preseason. Then, like, once we get into the thick of things with the season, it's a little bit of a different story. So I'm not doubting him because he has the pedigree to do it. He was the #1 player in the country coming out of high school. But, we'll see. The other side of this that I want to talk about is before I even get to that, this is the first time the Lakers are back in the finals in 10 years. You know what I mean? They had the confetti celebration going down. You saw like LeBron wasn't really celebrating or anything like that. they've really kind of taken on that Kobe moniker, the why aren't you smiling? Job's not finished. And I've heard a couple guys echo that. We've heard some great interviews come out of this since. Dwight talk about he was done with LA and now he's playing for a championship. Got thrusted into the starting lineup that last game as well. I don't know if you caught that. So that's also going to be interesting moving forward to how they're going to be able to do that with Miami. But that's just something I wanted to bring up, noticing how the Lakers have really been fueled in this postseason. And like going back to it now, I really kind of wonder how they would have, it gets me a little more upset that they didn't get to face the Clippers because I really would have wanted to see the matchup all year anyway, but kind of seeing how and me, I was out on the Lakers. I didn't even think they looked that good during those seeding games in the bubble, but they proved me wrong. And because of that, I would have really wanted to see that matchup even more to see how they would have been able to go against the Clippers. Would they have smacked them the way the Clippers look compared to them in the postseason? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think maybe the problem with the Clippers a little bit there is they probably ain't take Denver as seriously as they should have. I think, like you said, everyone's been waiting for that matchup, the LA matchup. It's something we've been talking about since Kawhi signed, basically. So it's been like the biggest hype thing, the matchup we all wanted to see. So I know if the Clippers probably would have got past Denver, I know they probably would have been up for the Lakers. So I doubt the Lakers probably would have dominated them or anything like that. I think the Lakers probably still would have came away with the win. But I think that the Clippers probably would have shown a lot better effort and a little more heart, especially the Kawhi versus Braun matchup, PG, all that type of thing. So I think, like I said, they wouldn't have dominated them, but I think the Lakers still probably would have got that one.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm inclined to agree based on the evidence. So on the Eastern Conference side of things, Miami closes out the Boston Celtics. That one, of course, ended up going 6 instead of 5, which we expected that to happen. We said that last episode. But this was the game where Miami really went full throttle on it, because for most of this series, Miami had played behind, and this series. Well, this specific game, Miami was able to come out with the commanding lead early. Started going back and forth a little bit throughout the game, and then in those clutch moments, like for most of the series, Miami was able to come through. The interesting thing also was what we had mentioned going in the coaching duel, and Eric Spoelstra just completely, I don't want to say outclassed, but he got the better of Brad Stevens in this matchup. He took Kelly Olynyk out. He took Myers Leonard out. He took Kendrick Nunn out of this game. Derrick Jones Jr. didn't really play a bunch of minutes in this series. He took guys that gave the Miami Heat meaningful minutes all year out of this series in order to ensure that they were going to win this game. Even at points, he had Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero playing more minutes than Goran Dragic at certain points in this series as well, which is interesting because of how well Goran Dragic had been playing throughout the postseason as well. So the number one thing that I had taken away from this was what I had been saying for years now, is how great of a coach Eric Spoelstra is. And I think after watching this series, he should finally be getting the credit that he rightfully deserves to the masses, not just people who watch Miami closely or who are fans of the Heat, but to people who really don't get to see him on a daily basis. That's one. And two, with the Celtics, moving forward, what are they going to do? Because this is a team that has the talent, but I think moving forward, should they change up their philosophy a little bit on their team and everything, because their best players have only been in the league about 2, 3, 4 years, minus Kemba. And, the first thing that was talked about after they lost was, hey, we got all these draft picks. We're still good for the future. You can't rely too much on these draft picks because you don't know what these guys are going to turn into. So you can have these, and I think that's what a lot of these teams are going to do. I don't believe Oklahoma City is a haul of draft picks from the Houston Rockets and the LA Clippers. Do I believe for 1 second that they're going to use every single draft pick that they have? No. I think that they have smart team building over there, and they're going to make trades to bring guys in. And I think that's what the Boston Celtics should have done with some of these picks, honestly. They could have got Kawhi Leonard. They didn't want to. They could have got Jimmy Butler. They didn't want to. They wanted to stand pat with these draft picks. And it's gotten them to 2 conference finals, but that's not the end game.
Yeah, definitely. To start off with Eric Spoelstra, like you were saying, I think, I think that this series did definitely show that, because a lot of people, his first couple championships, and maybe his first those 4 years of making it to the finals, a lot of people probably chalked it up to having the big three and things like that. So over the coming years, the people who really kind of know, seen what he's been doing, the things he's been able to do with different players like Deion Waiters and things like that. So a lot of people like knew, but like you said, I think this has kind of brought him back to life to the brighter stage and show that he is a great coach. I think some of Brad Stevens' things there, that series was kind of questionable. I've seen a lot of people calling them out for, I think Ennis Canner gave him a big game in game 3 that they had won, and in the next game he doesn't play him and things like that. So a lot of people were questioning some of the things that Brad Stevens was doing. And then, Eric Spoelstra, you kind of just, like you said, he had no problem taking out certain people and playing people more minutes and things like that. You see the big series that Tyler Hero had. So to see him play more minutes, especially down the stretch, is something, that he was able to do. So I think, like you say, he's going to be on the brighter things. As far as Boston, I think a lot of this is kind of the same thing. I think a lot of people have kind of got on Boston for not going for it. Like you said, they kind of been, oh, we have these draft picks, we're going to keep building. But after a while, like, they have the players. Like, of course, you still want to build for the future. And Danny Ainge has always kind of been like, he still wants to look towards the future and things like that. But at a certain point, you kind of just have to go in and be like, all right, we're going to go for it now. Like, they've been to 2 conference finals in the last 3 years, but like you said, that's not the end goal. The end goal is to win a championship. They could use some of those draft picks to kind of help the team a little bit, maybe get a couple more veteran like 6-man or something like that in there to kind of help these guys out. So I don't know kind of what Danny Ainge is thinking, but I think now, especially the team that they have with Kemba, I think the chemistry and everything was there for them. I think they just happened to run into a Miami team that was playing a little better, especially in the bubble. I think now is kind of the time to go for it. The East is kind of wide open. We kind of don't know how long Giannis is going to be in Milwaukee. We expect the Heat to get better, but if Boston gets better too, you just figure that you match up with them again. And then Philly, we still don't kind of know what's going on in Philly. They still need a coach. We don't know if they're going to keep both players. So I think now with the East being so wide open, it's kind of Boston's time to kind of go all in and then worry about those draft picks later. Because you get a couple championships out of it, then I think that'd be more important than the couple draft picks that you had.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the East being wide open. I think it's only gonna get tougher. Like Toronto, I fully expect the Toronto team to go and retool. You know, they went 7 games with Boston, in the semis. They're coming off a championship. Like they're still very good. Nick Nurse is going to be their coach long term. We'll see what happens with Masai Ujiri. Last time I heard, they haven't even talked contract extension with him, but we'll see. So that's one team to look out for. You mentioned Philly and the coaching thing. I think personnel is key with all sports teams. So they get the right personnel in there. They got the talent. That's a team that you could look at that could possibly win the championship going forward. The Brooklyn Nets will be back with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving next year. Steve Nash. That's it's only going to get harder moving forward. So they need to do. They stacked the deck once before. We were all very young when they did that. Put together what I feel is the first real super team. With the 08 Celtics, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and Paul Pierce, along with Kendrick Perkins and Rajon Rondo and all those guys. But, I think they need to – Danny Ainge should probably go back to that philosophy where he's going to go all in on this because, like I said, it's only going to get tougher from here.
Definitely. They have the pieces already. They have the up-and-coming superstar, Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown's a solid player who looks like he's going to be a star. They have Kemba Walker, who's a star. They got Marcus Smart, the defensive anchor, and things like that. I think maybe Tice played well for them, and Williams coming off the bench played well for them. And Ennis Canner, like I said, he had a couple of games. They could maybe upgrade there, maybe not.
The big man is definitely the position that they need to upgrade moving forward.
Yeah, but besides that, I think they're solid. They have everything they need. Like I said, you could boost to the bench with a couple of veterans or a couple of scorers off the bench, and that's kind of it. And then you kind of, like you said, go all in for it right now. I don't see what's the point of kind of waiting because, like I said, you have the young pieces that you need. I don't think you need to get any younger.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess let's look into that NBA Finals. Why do I have this jersey on? Because it's looking for what Drake say, looking for revenge all summer 16. It's not summer 16, though. It's end of September 2020. That was corny, I know, whatever.
The jersey could confuse people a little bit because it has Brog's number on it, looks like. but it's Miami. So where you
Yeah,
at?
it is an LBJ jersey, Miami LBJ. This is an authentic, by the way. You feel me? This is player one right here. Don't get it twisted. I actually gotta get this fixed a little bit. Excuse me, but whatever. So why am I wearing this jersey? For a multitude of reasons. The obvious one is LeBron spent 4 years with the Miami Heat. You know, learned how to be a winner in South Beach. Won 2 championships, 4 NBA Finals. He did great things in Miami. The breakup was actually sour, if anybody remembers that. You know, there's a lot of stories we can get into about how that went, about how, you know, he went to visit, Pat Riley went to visit him along with Alonzo Mourning. And, you know, Riley's talking to LeBron's peoples, and LeBron is supposedly he was sitting down playing a video game, completely ignoring Pat Riley. Alonzo Mourning had to check him, like, you're not going to disrespect this man like that. He ends up leaving to go back to Cleveland. You know, the confusion there, because he had actually, I don't know if you remember this, he had taken a flight with Dwayne Wade. I forgot where they were going. And this was around the time that his free agency decision was going to get made. So there was like a whole thing that Dwayne Wade had got thrusted into with Miami. And, you know, did you even know that he was going to leave? Why didn't you say anything? And things like that. And basically, do you remember the press conference after they lost to the Spurs in 2014 for Pat Riley?
No, I don't.
Pat Riley had a press conference, you know, the exit press conference, and, you know, seemed like he was calling out LeBron there. You know, he's just like, you know, basically you don't just walk out the first door when things get tough. You know, you come back if you got the guts and things like that. There seemed like perceived shots at LeBron James with the impending free agency on the way at the time. LeBron ends up going back to Cleveland. They got the letter out with Sports Illustrated and everything, coming home. And from that point on, Pat Riley was furious, rightfully so, because, you know, that it was like you're just throwing away a dynasty. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it got tough and you lost, but you could come back and still win a couple more championships with an elite organization. So, you know, there was that. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is Pat Riley, the great Pat Riley, you know, one of the greatest coaches of all time, greatest executives of all time, won a championship as a player. He was part of spearheading the Showtime Lakers along with Jerry West, head coach, you know, with the 5 championships and all that, right? Has never faced his former team in the postseason since leaving. So this is the first time Pat Riley will face the Los Angeles Lakers since leaving. We have so much going. The other thing, too, because I'm going to get back to Riley and LeBron's beef here, and I know I'm rambling on a little bit, but hear me out. When he left, when he was getting ready to leave, one of the things we saw was during that draft, I don't know if you remember this, but rumors were going around that LeBron actually liked Shabazz Napier out of UConn. What does Miami do? They draft Shabazz Napier. LeBron leaves anyway. Think about 2 years after that, going into the draft, they asked Riley about like his thoughts and everything about the draft process. And he goes on to say, and I'm paraphrasing here, you know, we don't have anybody here with hidden agendas that's going to, you know, put out players that they might like and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Then we go to 2016 when LeBron won his championship. LeBron had said the reason for him going back was because certain people believe when he left Miami, it was the worst mistake he was making in his career, and that was his motivation. The other half of that is when he did win his championship, Pat Riley texted him to congratulate him. He never got a text back. Now, I know a year ago when, you know, Dwayne's last game in Brooklyn, him and Riley seemed pretty cordial with each other, but I think you got to be crazy if you don't think that there's more than just, all right, it's Miami and the Lakers playing in the finals. There's some added motivation to this too. Not to mention LeBron James and Eric Spoelstra really butted heads a lot in their time together. So there's so much fuel to go around here. I'm excited, not just because I'm a fan, but yeah, it's like the storylines are endless here.
Yeah, definitely. Eric Spoelstra actually said after the game, they asked him about the finals. He said, I don't want to talk about it right now. I want to celebrate this, but it's one hell of a storyline. And he's definitely right with that. like you said, him and LeBron was bumping heads and things like that. I still remember the shoulder bump. Where they were like 6 and 7 or something.
Yeah.
LeBron gave him the shoulder bump in Dallas. So also Pat Riley actually had came out and said that he was furious for a couple of days after LeBron had left. It was, I think, a couple of years later when they asked him about it, he would say he was definitely upset about it. So those quotes are definitely out there too. So like you said, the storylines is there. It's gonna be one hell of a series, one hell of a storyline, and things like that. I think Miami is. I don't want to say they're in a little bit of trouble, but I think from what I've seen at the end of that Boston series, I like what Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo was able to do. But if Jimmy Butler's not going to be able to bring them home, I think they're going to be in a lot of trouble. I think at the end of that game 5 and at the end of that game 6, it was kind of not maybe his best moments, or maybe he was feeling the pressure of making it to his first finals. The young boys were able to step up for him at the end of that game 6. But I don't think it's Jimmy's going to have to show up in this series if they want to get anywhere. I think if you the young boys have to play well too and things like that, but Jimmy really has to show up here or they're going to be in a lot of trouble.
I expect Jimmy to show up. I don't think Miami's going to be in a lot of trouble. Should we just get out with the picks now?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Well, you heard me mention how I'm a fan, right? Now, I'm not going to pick with my heart. I'm going to pick with and I'm going to go all over the place a little bit again. I had a nice conversation with somebody yesterday when we were talking about like who we'd go with, and he brought up that he actually called this from jump. He picked Miami to go all the way. I said I believe that they could make the conference finals based on how I had the matchup with them in Milwaukee. He from jump said Miami is going to go to the finals. I'm talking to this dude last night, and he says Miami's going to win it. They just got too much depth. And that's kind of what I wanted to go to when you made the comments you just made, is because if we go back to how he has Spoelstra benched a lot of players in that Boston series, these are the same players that he could very well just throw right back into thrust and be given them meaningful minutes. He can play with lineups in so many different ways. And I feel like the Lakers are still kind of limited with what they can do, even though they have this great talent in LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And you got Rajon Rondo, who's playing some very good basketball right now on both ends of the floor. But outside of that, the team still hasn't been consistent. You know what I mean? So the possibilities of what Miami can do as opposed to what the Lakers can do is just different. And, look at the zone defense that Miami plays. That you're not supposed to be able to play zone defense for, an extended period of time because of, how tiring playing that type of defense can get. The Miami guys are so in shape because of the program that they run over there that they can play a zone defense for a half and still not even be breathing hard. And I think that's one thing that's gonna come into play here against the Lakers with them trying to get 3-point shots up. And the other thing is, Bam Adebayo, who is really out here showing people what he can do. He was a 14th pick, and he just keeps getting better and better. I've heard people say he has no ceiling. The possibilities of what he can become are just endless. I think while he doesn't have the size to be able to match up with Anthony Davis, he's got the athleticism and the speed to be able to match up with him in that sense. And I think he's going to do a pretty good job of defending Anthony Davis. And the other thing, and I think we touched on this in past episodes, who knows LeBron James better than Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, and the Miami Heat?
Yeah, definitely. I think I like a lot of things that you said, but for me, I guess it's going to come down to like they have the depth, but a lot of these guys kind of never been here before. So how much of the moment kind of gets to some of these guys? Tyler Hero and some of the guys, it seems like the moment hasn't really got to them. But this is the finals, so this is really it's a big deal, and you're going up against LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So how much will the moment get to them will be a factor into it for me. Also, I talked about it on here a couple times. We've seen what the Lakers have been able to do when it comes to stopping high-power offense. You've seen them stop Damian Lillard. You've seen them stop Russell Westbrook and James Harden. How much are those shooters going to be able to get off when the Lakers really scheme that defense for them? If the Lakers were able to stop those guys in the past and those high-power offenses, I think that the Miami shooters maybe have some trouble in this series and things like that, trying to get off shots and kind of not getting frustrated. I talked about Houston talking about how they were so frustrated that Miami wasn't letting them. LA wasn't letting them get to what they want to do and things like that. So how much is that going to factor in? The Lakers really been locking in on defense and taking away from things. Is Tyler Hero or Duncan Robinson going to be able to show us maybe a little more than what they've shown us already? Even though Tyler Hero has shown us a lot, but can he, kind of go into his bag a little more because he's going to have some great defenders on him and things like that. Also, another thing is you brought up Rondo and kind of how the Lakers are doesn't have as much depth. I think Rondo's going to be the big X factor here for me. I think he's been the biggest X factor since he came back. Him and that he has a lot of finals experience and things like that. We all been talking about how the Lakers need that third player. We thought it'd be Kuzma. A lot of people thought that and things like that. Kuzma kind of really hasn't stepped up. He has had games here and there, but then he has had bad games. Rondo's really the difference maker, not only for himself, but for other people. Rondo kind of makes it a lot easier for other people to kind of get going and things like that. So if Rondo is being playoff Rondo again, that's just another X factor that kind of Miami has to deal with. So I think, like you said, Miami can cause some things with that zone and things like that. But if their shooters are kind of hitting, like if Danny Green can get going, if Caldwell Pope can get going, if people like that can get going, then Miami might be in a little trouble. So it's going to be interesting. I think those are kind of big X factors here, along with, like I said, Jimmy Butler. He's going to have to step up.
Well, again, fair points. I fully expect Jimmy to step up. As far as the championship experience goes, are things guys not really being there before. Not completely true. You have Andre Iguodala, who actually in that last game against the Boston Celtics really stepped up for Miami there. He hit at one point he was 4 for 4, and 3 of those shots were on 3-pointers. So, you have him there. I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with LeBron like how he was back in Golden State. But that's a guy that's been tremendous help for Miami since he's got there, and I think he's going to continue to do that there. And then you got guys on that, like Miami has had the perfect blend of this young talent mixed in with these vet guys. Goran Dragic has been to the postseason a bunch of times, specifically with the Heat, and had some very good performances. Jimmy Butler is just a winner. We talked about this last time. Last time the Chicago Bulls were in the playoffs, he was on the team. First time Minnesota Timberwolves made the playoffs since 2004, he was on the team. They haven't made it since he left. First time Philly makes its deepest playoff run in years, he was on the team. So I think he's gonna even though he hasn't been to the finals, I believe he's still going. It's not going to be, the moment isn't going to be too big for him, and I think that's having those types of guys on there is just going to rub off on these younger guys. Now, again, talking about the championship experience, let's go to the Lakers side of things. You have Rajon Rondo, who's won a championship and been to the final multiple times. You have LeBron James, who's won multiple championships. This is his 10th NBA Finals. Danny Green has, 2 championships, been to the finals a couple times. Outside of that, you don't have any championship experience on that team outside of those guys. You got Anthony Davis, who's won before he became a Laker, won in 1 playoff series. Excuse me, I'm sorry. You also have Dwight Howard, who's been to the NBA Finals 1 time. But outside of that, you got some guys that have been to the playoffs before, and you have those 3 guys with championship experience, and Dwight, who's been to the finals. But outside of that, it's just guys that really haven't been there as well. So it's different blend, and I feel like you could say the same thing for both teams. These guys are going to be able to kind of rub off on their teammates to get the best out of them.
Yeah, definitely. You got to throw JaVale McGee in there too.
You're right.
Yeah, but he's gonna be interesting. I think, like you said, Iguodala is gonna be a big factor. How well he can play, LeBron, Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, Iguodala, and some of the people who know LeBron the best. So that's gonna be interesting to me. Another point is who's kind of gonna impose their will first, because the Lakers are gonna probably stay big. So you probably figured Dwight Howard or JaVale McGee would be in that starting lineup. For Miami, you figure that you want Bam Adebayo on Anthony Davis. So I don't know. In order for them to do that, I'm pretty sure Bam's the center, right? Who starts at the 4 for them?
Actually, I think it's Jake Crowder that starts at the 4 for them.
So you're either gonna have to start Drake Crowder on Anthony Davis.
Jake Crowder's a stout defender too, though.
Yeah, definitely. But he just might be a little too small for AD. But he's definitely gonna make it tough for AD.
I don't mean to cut you off. I really that's Bam Adebayo's job. Outside of like the Lakers trying to get switches and everything like that, that's Bam Adebayo's assignment is definitely Anthony Davis.
And that's where it gets interesting because now you're gonna have to put Jay Crowder on Dwight Howard or JaVale McGee. I mean, you're not worried about them
But
too much.
that's
Now go ahead.
no, that's the thing though. We're talking about Jay Crowder, but you have guys that didn't really play in this last series that I think can be key for the Miami Heat, like a Myers Leonard, who actually was the starting four for them before they acquired Jay Crowder. He has the size to be able to defend. Kelly Olynyk, who's a five, you can throw him in there. He's a stretch. He's a guy who can stretch the defense as well. You can throw him in there on Dwight. They have bodies that you can throw on these guys.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of to the point I was going to get to. Either LA is going to have to maybe downsize and play to maybe Miami's advantage, or Miami's going to have to go up and play a little bigger to LA's advantage. So that's what I said. It's gonna be interesting to see who imposes their will or who makes the switch first to kind of match up. So the matchup series are going to be a lot interesting. Like you said, I think that's Bam's job. I mean, maybe they'll start off with Jay Crowder and later on as the game goes on, so they can probably still stay small and not have to go too big too early. And then, like I said, it's expected to be Bam's job and things like that. And I think Bam can make it tough for him. I think, like you said, I don't think Bam is too much smaller than him. So I wouldn't worry about size too much. And also, I think Bam probably have him in a little bit of strength. Not saying that AD's weak or anything, but I think Bam just looks like he's a little stronger, can maybe knock him off the block a little bit. So it'd be interesting to see because then maybe the Lakers try to attack the white or things like that and get the bigs a little bit more touches with Jay Crowder guarding.
Yeah, for sure, man. The other thing that can't be ignored here is the coaching matchup. Again, I think that's kind of been like my favorite aspect of these playoffs, by the way, more specifically in the East. But I think here, I want to bring it up because the early theme of our show has been history. Here's the other history we have to talk about. Frank Vogel is the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. The only other place Frank Vogel has had playoff success is with the Indiana Pacers, and it was one team that kept stopping him from getting to finals. That was the Miami Heat. And Eric Spoelstra was the man that he was dueling against. I believe Eric Spoelstra is – how can I put this? I'm going to go ahead and give my picks. As much as I have bigged up the Miami Heat and went to bat for them with everything I've just said, and they actually remind me of the 04 Pistons, I believe that the Lakers are going to win this series in 6 or 7 games. But I think that is solidly because of those 3 guys we've been talking about this postseason: LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Rajon Rondo. Eric Spoelstra probably is going to make Frank Vogel look a little foolish in this series with the things that he does.
Yeah, definitely. I can see what you're saying there. But I think Frank Vogel has shown us a lot kind of this postseason. I don't know, maybe with him, LeBron, Jason Kidd back there. I think he's been kind of, like I said, they've been able to switch their defenses up and do a lot of different things. So he deserves a lot of credit for what he's been able to do, like you said. But him and Eric Spoelstra is going to be really interesting. I am going to pick. I'm going to ride with the Miami Heat.
Whoa,
Yeah,
whoa! You've been saying Lakers all postseason. What is going on?
I'm in Miami. I'm riding with Miami. We made it here, baby. I'm gonna go. It's gonna have to be 6. They're gonna get it done. Iguodala's gonna be big. They're gonna need Iguodala to step up big. He's gonna make it real tough for LeBron. I know he's not gonna be able to play as much minutes, but between Jimmy Butler, Jay Crowder, and Iguodala, I think they got a solid defender on LeBron. Maybe the whole time he's in the game. You think about it, we just talked about Eric Spoelstra. Eric Spoelstra is going to make it very tough for Frank Vogel. How well is LeBron and him, Jason Kidd, and Frank Vogel, all of them going to be able to get onto the same page? Like we said, the Heat have everyone who knows LeBron the best. Iguodala's been playing him in the finals for the last 5 years, 6 years, something like that. Spoelstra, he coached them for 4 years. Pat Riley, that he has a chip on his shoulder. The whole Miami Heat organization has a chip on his shoulder. And it's basically like a matchup of Miami's past and their present right now. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said, Jimmy Butler's going to have to play a lot better and things like that. I think Adebayo is going to make it real tough on AD. Like I said, he's a little stronger than him, maybe knock him off the block and things like that. And I think the Lakers are going to have to downsize. I know they did it in the Rocky series and a couple other series and things like that. But I think with the way Miami plays, especially with their starting lineup, and if Jay Crowder can get to how he was kind of earlier in the playoffs, hitting those threes, I think he's going to definitely stretch the court a little bit where you're going to maybe run Dwight Howard and those guys off the field. So I think Miami's downsizing is going to cause a lot of trouble for them. And I think Iguodala is going to be able to, Iguodala, Jimmy Butler, and Jay Crowder, like I said, is going to be able to make it real tough on LeBron at all times. And that's why I'm riding with the Heat. I'm taking the Heat in 6.
Breaking news. Kayson Davis is going back on his pick. He's not taking the Los Angeles Lakers. He's taking the Miami Heat. I hope you're right, even though I'm not picking them. But I hope you're right as a fan. I'm kind of going my head instead of my heart. But, hey, it is what it is. I think one other thing before we move on, I think there's going to be some unsung heroes in this game. I think guys that we heard about a lot but not too much in this postseason for both teams. I'm looking to step up. I'm looking at a Kendrick Nunn who, lit the world on fire this season. And, he had a lot going on, he contracted the coronavirus and, things like that. Wasn't really himself following all that. I think him watching Tyler Hero doing what he's doing, they've came into this thing together. I expect him to really do some things moving forward here, along with some other guys too, with Derrick Jones Jr. and whatnot. Along with, guys on the Lakers side as well. I think Danny Green is gonna get hot in this series for them. But I expect some unsung heroes on both teams to be able to step up.
Yeah, definitely. They're gonna need them. Like you said, there's a lot of matchups. There's a lot of things like that. So AD might have it a little tough. LeBron may have it not, Bron's going to be Bron, but you know what I mean? Have it, like I say, he's going to have a strong defender at all times. They're going to need someone to step up. And as far as the Heat, we talked about the Heat's depth, they're definitely going to need someone to step up. It could be Dragic one game. It could be Hero one game. And they're definitely going to need it because the Lakers are definitely going to zone in on Jimmy Butler and things like that. I don't know how much the Lakers are going to believe. I guess the young guys, they've had a big game 6 and they've been able kind of to get them there. But how much, like I said, they think it's the moment now. It's the NBA Finals. It's the biggest moment of maybe their basketball careers right now. So I think they probably figure that, like I said, the moment can get to you sometimes. So it's going to be interesting. Everyone, like you said, they're going to need unsung heroes, who it might be. Kyle Kuzma really kind of needs to step up for the Lakers and things like that. So hopefully he can have a couple games. So you're definitely right. I agree with everything you said. We don't know who it's going to be yet. It could be Kelly Olynyk can come off the bench, stretching the floor, hitting threes like that and things like that. So there's definitely going to be a couple. We just probably don't know who they are right now.
Yeah,
I think that's good.
I was going to say a Mike Miller type performance.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say that's really what's going to be the difference in the series and kind of who's going to be able to come away with the win. Because you know what the stars are going to be able to do. You know what the coaches are going to be able to do. So it's really going to come down to who may come out of nowhere and have a big game.
Yeah, for sure, man. So we will see game 1 Wednesday night, tomorrow night, whenever you guys get this. So we had breaking news yesterday, man. Kind of took the world by storm. And people weren't shocked. Well, or people were shocked, but it wasn't surprising. The Clippers and Doc Rivers have parted ways. We talked about this last episode. I felt like they should have ran it back with him another year. Kayson kind of went on the path that maybe it's time to move on, and they're moving on. And it could have a ripple effect. We'll see, because I think one of the things people have brought up since this news came out yesterday was Kawhi's introductory press conference and, highlighting how much he wanted to play for Doc like that. And, next summer, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard will be unrestricted free agents. We fully expect them to opt out of those deals. I guess the one thing that you talked about on here, and I heard a lot of people echoing those sentiments, in the past 24 hours, was this was really kind of the only move that they could make. We've heard that they expect to do some retooling on the team as well, bring some playmakers in there, things like that. But this is really the only move they could make. And now you're wondering where it goes. I guess I kind of feel like it's like 2016 all over again with the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's got to be like Ty Lue's job to to lose, right? Like he's got everything going for him. He's got the championship experience. He's already in the building. He's got the relationship with the players. Contrary to popular belief, he's actually not that bad of an X and O's coach. So, we'll see what happens there. I think one of the things I did recently hear probably a couple hours ago was him taking this job will be contingent on how Doc feels. If Doc feels betrayed by the Clippers, it's possible that Ty Lue could just say adios and, go on and look for another job. But, we will see there. And Doc is a future Hall of Famer as a coach. He's anybody that knows him or just gotten the chance to see him work will tell you he's an upstanding human being. Somebody who's a symbol for the NBA and positive change in his nation and things like that. He's a very good coach as well, but I guess 7 years of falling short kind of ran its course, and you can make the argument that he had things going against him too. There were playoff runs with Lob City where guys were getting hurt in the middle, like that one series, at a freak accident, Chris Paul and Blake Griffin both get hurt back to back, and another series where they lose Blake Griffin for the series, they end up losing that, but still have Chris Paul. But I mean, the big one was, the year that they should have won it, not even talking about this year. I'm going back to 2015. The first year we all thought that they could have won it when they blew the 3-1 lead against Houston. So there's that. And then this year they do it again. They come short against Denver, blow the 3-1 lead there. And I mean, how do we look at it? We said, we talked about them, last week and, getting in how them blowing that 3-1 lead came to be. I think Doc just never, really checked. These guys came into the bubble very entitled, like they had accomplished something, and they really didn't. And Doc never really. They thought that they could come in and turn it on and off whenever they won. That wasn't the case, and I think Doc didn't do a good job of making sure these guys were all in on this.
Yeah, definitely.
I was just gonna say I believe he'll get another job maybe soon, whenever he wants it. I know. I believe Philly's already contacted him.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, it was shocking but not surprising because, like, a lot of people thought that he'll stay and things like that. A lot of people were kind of on the other side, so it was like shocking. But you kind of heard that it might have been out there. But yeah, I think I was reading an article today on The Athletic, and they were kind of talking about how it was really a creative difference type of thing. I think they said that they were kind of upset with Doc because they thought Zubac should have been playing more minutes, and he was kind of rolling with Harrell a lot, and Harrell wasn't playing too much, and just some other things about the future that they both kind of wasn't on the same page. I think, like I was saying last week, he's been there for 7 years. It kind of didn't work out. Like you said, it should have been 2 times where maybe they should have been in the finals, and both of those times he blew a 3-1 lead and things like that. I think he kind of just ran his course there. I mean, maybe you could run it back with him. It probably wouldn't have been that bad. But I think being there 7 years, he's had talent. Things just kind of didn't work out. And like you said, with Blake and people getting injured sometimes, so when you have those opportunities, you cannot kind of fold your opportunities away. So I just think he kind of played his course there. He was there long enough. I think it's kind of time for something new for him. As also Steve Ballmer, when he got the job, he didn't get to pick his coach. So not saying he was trying to get Doc out of there and get his own coach, but he never got to pick his coach. And then Kawhi and them's there. Yeah, they wanted to play for Doc and things like that. But now they really can all sit down together and maybe get a coach in there who would come replace Doc, who they also want to play for. So I heard Jeff Van Gundy's name might be out there.
Yep. Seems like those are the leading candidates right now.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Ty Lue thing is interesting that you brought it up because the way they tried to make it seem in that article was kind of like it wasn't like no hard feelings type of thing. So I think if it's like that, then Ty Lue is definitely a good candidate. I was bigging up Ty Lue last week of why I think he should get the job and things like that. But like you said, Doc, I think there's a whole bunch of jobs out there. Maybe he can go to Houston and coach his son. Maybe he goes.
We saw what that looked like.
And then maybe he can go the Philly job. That's another championship contender and kind of a new start and things like that. Another big market for him. So he's got, like you said, he's going to have his pick of jobs. Like, it wasn't that shocking, but like I said, I thought that's the only move they can make to kind of upgrade the roster. They can also upgrade at point guard if they can get another point guard out there. But yeah, really, this was kind of like the only move because Doc's been there long enough. You mentioned the point guard thing. As good as Patrick Beverley is, I think I kind of like him coming off the bench.
more than I do having him in my starting lineup. I think Derrick Rose, who we've heard is a guy that they could be targeting this offseason. I think he still has it in him as a starting point guard. He's not that Chicago D Rose anymore, but I think he's still a viable option as your starting point guard. And, he's already proven he's still got plenty of game left in him. I texted you when this came out. I'm like, damn, this hurts Philly because it's like Ty Lue can get this job. And then you kind of talked me off the ledge there because they can just bring Doc in, and they should. If you're Philadelphia, man, I've heard this thing about D'Antoni going like, stay away from Mike D'Antoni if you're Philadelphia. The two guys you should be looking at are Ty Lue and Doc Rivers. You get one of those two, and you roll from there. I think Doc Rivers would actually have a good redemption story coaching out in Philly. I think if there's anybody who can get those two superstars right, because Doc Rivers is a leader of men. At the end of the day, he's done an amazing job in every stop he's been at in that part of his game. He's another guy, very good X and O's coach, even if you don't want to believe it. You know who I'm talking to. But yeah. So I mean that's a job he could definitely take and do well there, but we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, Philly would be a great spot for him. And we just talking about hell of a storylines. What a storyline that would be if next year both of them ends up going over to Philly and then they end up in the finals versus the Clippers and say Ty Lue takes the job. So that's another hell of a storyline. So yeah, I think, like you said, Philly just stay away from Mike D'Antoni, let him go to Indiana, do what he's gonna do. And I think they should be calling Doc right now. Doc would be great for them.
Yeah, for sure, man. Back to the Clippers. I think Jeff Van Gundy. How great of a redemption story would be for Jeff Van Gundy to get back into coaching after all these years, and to get I think he would do an amazing job with the Clippers with the personnel that they have.
I think they'll be instant title favorites again. They'll be the title favorites definitely again. Actually, with the way the Lakers look, it'd be the same storyline again, Lakers versus Clippers. But yeah, definitely him. I know Houston's been trying to call him too, so his name's been out there a lot. I know his name's kind of been out there before for a couple other jobs he didn't get, but now it seems like his name is only getting hotter as the time goes on. So I think he kind of like Doc. It's going to depend on if he wants to take a job or not.
Let me help your franchises out right now. Houston, hire Sam Cassell. He checks off all your boxes that you need. Clippers, Van Gundy or Ty Lue, take your pick. Philly, Doc Rivers or Ty Lue, take your pick. You know what? I'm not even going to hate on you, Mike D'Antoni. You would be a perfect fit in Indiana.
Does the Pelicans coach still have his job? He'd be a good coach.
No, the Pelicans have a job opening too. Doc is going to be in line for that job as well.
That'd be interesting if that goes. If that goes there, that'd be crazy. But yeah, Mike D'Antoni would be good in New Orleans too. So.
Oh no! I'm worried about Zion's health. I don't know if he could withstand that pace of play.
You gotta be out here shooting threes. That's what they need from Zion.
They need a lot, man. They need a lot. But we'll see. This is definitely gonna be something we keep checking out moving forward. For sure. Gotta talk football, because if you thought it was bad already in New York, it only gets worse. Where we start? We want to start with Gang Green, and we going with Big Blue. What are we doing? Which one you want to do first? They're both.
Let's start with the Giants. Let's go.
Oh man! So the Giants you would think the Giants would be able to beat the 49ers when the 49ers have most of their players hurt and on the IR. But the Giants went out there Sunday afternoon and got embarrassed by the 49ers second team. I really don't have too much to say there. I didn't even watch most of that game because of how pitiful that performance was.
Yeah, definitely. It's just crazy because last week we were kind of talking about how they haven't won, but at least they look competitive, and then they kind of go out there and do this week against like their second team. So it's like they were taking some great steps forward, and now this may seem like it's a step back. It's only one game. It's still only week 3, I believe, so you don't want to panic too much, but just to be against their second team and things like that after we kind of thought they were going in the right direction for them to kind of come out and lay an egg, it's not good. It's definitely not good. we gotta cut them a little bit of slack. Hopefully they can come back next week. It's one game. Maybe it's one of those games where we kind of just, it's their second team. There a lot of players hurt. We didn't get up for them. We kind of underestimated them, and then you get hit in the face. So we hope this is not, something that keeps up. Hopefully they can get back to how they were the first 2 weeks and finally get a win.
Hey, I mean, the schedule only gets harder from here. They got the Rams this week. That I definitely not gonna pick them to win unless like something changes. But I think Saquon getting hurt is not good for Daniel Jones' development. But I think he needs to kind of get rocking and rolling, as far as his development goes, because, and I don't want to get into this too much, so I want to have this conversation after we critique the Jets. If they don't win as many games as we expect them to, it's kind of going to be you have a top pick here with some pretty high-valued quarterbacks. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? And like I said, I want to get into this more once we get to the Jets, because I feel like we should have this conversation with both New York teams. But if he doesn't show us something, even though it's only been 2 years, you're going to have your questions. And, I mean, Dave Gettleman's seat is only getting hotter and hotter now. I think you could even make the argument he made the team worse since he's got there. It doesn't reflect well on John Mara and Steve Tisch of bringing him in there, with the whole familiarity aspect. They got to the Giants got to get it right, man. It's been 4 years of, that since 2016, the last time they made the playoffs, and something's got to give. It's going to be awkward if you bring in a GM and you after you just hired a head coach, like we said too. So.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like you said, Gettleman's seat is only getting hotter and things like that. I think he'll probably be gone after this year, so that'd be interesting. And then to bring in a new GM when, like you said, there might be some great quarterbacks out there. I know the Giants seem like they love Daniel Jones so far and things like that, but if you bring in a new GM and he may fall in love with one of these new quarterbacks because Daniel Jones is not his quarterback, who knows what could happen. That'd be really interesting. So you hope they turn it around and things get a little better, so maybe they can, like you said, we probably don't expect them to make the playoffs, but maybe they can kind of get Daniel Jones some more weapons out there or something like that, get him maybe some more wide receivers or some help on the offensive line and things like that. But it's not, like you said, it's not looking good for them. The future is kind of like really up in the air, especially they're probably going to change over GM, so it's like someone new is coming in and who knows what changes he's going to want to make.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up the weapons too, because I really don't think that's his problem. You have Darius Slayton, who had a very good rookie year. He's kind of carried it on over to the second year. Those two guys are kind of growing together. That's his go-to guy. You got a Golden Tate who's great with yards after catch. Sterling Shepard's not playing right now. I think that was another thing that kind of hurt them, but he's another viable option at wide receiver. And then, maybe you could bring in another guy because the fourth receiver has been shaky. We don't really know who the guy is there. Like they had C.J. Board as the guy. You thought it was going to be Corey Coleman. They ended up cutting him. I think the problem with the Giants on the offensive side of the ball, it's been the same thing since Dave Gettleman got there. And it's interesting because Dave Gettleman has constantly talked about how this was the thing he wanted to get fixed. It's the offensive line. You just drafted a left tackle in Andrew Thomas, and he hasn't even played that well. And it take the left tackle position. I saw someone talking about, is a difficult position to play, and it takes time to get there. And I think eventually he could be a very good left tackle. The interesting thing about Andrew Thomas is when he was drafted, people were saying they didn't think he could be the best offensive lineman in the draft long term, but he was the most ready to play in the pros now, and he's already out here struggling. All these, Will Hernandez, who I actually like, has not looked the greatest this year. He was very inconsistent last year. You got Gates at center who hasn't looked too well. Like the offensive line has been the one thing that we have constantly talked about, and this regime has talked about getting right, and they just haven't, and it's been years.
Yeah, definitely, and that might be the reason why they get someone new in there. And like us, kind of like the point I was trying to bring up there is that you want to use that pick on like helping on other places that kind of need help instead of kind of using it on another quarterback. But it's going to be maybe unfortunate for Giants fans, not unless they can kind of trade Jones if they do end up taking one of these new quarterbacks. But to kind of waste another pick on a quarterback as well as Jones, like the 6th pick in the draft or something like that. He was the number 6 pick in the draft, and then a few years later you're taking another top pick for another quarterback. So it's kind of like we need help in other places to just be kind of running through quarterbacks.
Yeah, man. I will give them this, though, because I think Arizona has kind of taken the heat off a little bit when they drafted Josh Rosen, and then a year late, one season later, with their top pick, they take another quarterback in Kyler Murray. So I think that that's something that people are going to, if it does happen, they're going to point to, like, look at this, look how this happened or whatever. But the other thing when they took Murray was the coaching, and Murray fit specifically what Cliff Kingsbury wanted to do. Now, on the Giants side, even though I bring that up, it's tricky because we talk about how amazing Trevor Lawrence and I'm going to throw Justin Fields in there because I think he's just as good. A lot of people don't talk about him enough like they talk about Trevor Lawrence. But those two have literally been neck and neck with each other since high school. I think Justin Fields is actually ranked higher than Trevor Lawrence coming out of high school. And Trevor Lawrence at Clemson has had a little bit of a better career just because, Justin Fields' path, being in Georgia and Georgia not being smart and deciding to start Jake Fromm over him. And then he goes to Ohio State and just completely lights it up. But I think those two are your 1A, 1B at quarterback. With that being said, all this talk about how great they are. You just drafted a quarterback in Daniel Jones. And, let's throw the Jets in here because it's where I wanted to have this conversation anyway. Sam Darnold's in year 3. Daniel Jones is in year 2. It could be a personnel issue with these guys. Who knows? If you decide to move on from these guys to get one of these quarterbacks and they don't, this quarterback, now one of these quarterbacks that you just took ends up not being the guy that you thought he was, you have just set your franchise back years because you had a guy and decided to move on from him too early.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. I think that the Giants are maybe in a worse situation because, like I was just saying, they're gonna maybe bring in the new GM. So the new GM, this is not his quarterback, this is not his coach. So you think about it being a new GM, you come in, it's like, oh, I'm in love with this quarterback. You see him work out and things like that. Like, we got a top pick. So I think the Giants are more likely to kind of maybe be like, new GM, Daniel Jones is kind of like, yeah, he's cool, but he's not my guy. So he may fall in love with it. One of those guys and be like, all right, I'll take a top pick on him. This is me. I'm controlling the team now. I want it to look like how I want to look. And we kind of talked about it on here too. They might end up firing the coach too. So it's like the Giants will be back quarterback wise. They'll be back head coach wise because they just hired a head coach for no reason. So I think for the Giants, they're kind of maybe in a little worse situation, or maybe it's more likely to happen for the Giants. So it's just crazy.
It would be so bad if they bring in a new GM and then move on from the coach at the same. It's like, or even if they keep Joe Judge and the staff in place with the new GM, it would literally be like the Jets situation. Okay, GM answers to the owner, coach doesn't answer to GM, coach answers to owner as well. It's just it's a messy look all around. It's tough. I think the mayor and his family really made some huge, and I'm not going to, a lot of people, kind of, not a lot, but there's people that kind of got at them like, we got to get rid of you now. Like, first of all, ownership ain't going nowhere. Sorry. But, this is the same ownership that's been to 5 Super Bowls, won 4 of them, and won 2 of them in the last 13 years. Okay, so let's pump the brakes a little bit there. They're not Cleveland Browns, New York Knicks bad, okay? Like, they've had success in recent times. But, with that being said, they've made some mistakes that have, definitely hurt this franchise, and things got to give. Because I know me, I am tired of this. It's been 4 years. I'm used to the Giants doing some things, and it's been a rocky 4 years since 2016.
Yeah, definitely. I like how you snuck the Knicks in there too. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I think everything you said is right. Like they kind of shown us that they can kind of get it done. It's just a couple bad moves in the last couple of years, and maybe kind of going in the future. I think it's been dark days, and the way it's looking, we don't know when things are gonna get brighter. It seems like it may only get darker. But you hope for better days. You hope that they kind of turn it around. Maybe getting this new GM would be good. It might set us back a little bit, but you hope not, and you hope maybe getting a new GM in there, things start to turn around and things like that. So you only can hope for better days at this point because, like you said, ownership's not going nowhere, and also like I think they shown that they can kind of get it done. They just need to get it together a little bit.
Hey, Louis Riddick, man. I wanted him to get the job a couple years ago. Y'all decided to go with Dave Gettleman. He's flourishing over at ESPN, got that booth job for Monday Night Football. Interview him again. Just saying. New York Jets, again, just don't look good. But I guess the other with here, I talked about how I feel like Daniel Jones has the weapons, at least better personnel anyway. Sam Darnold has nothing. The skill positions there are not good. Le'Veon Bell's hurt, so he doesn't even have the run game to go to like that. Even though he's got Frank Gore, who's super vet. But the personnel, head coaching, like Adam Gase is not a good coach. We have seen it. He wasn't good in Miami. They made one playoff appearance with Tannehill, and he has not been good in New York. He is just not. He has not shown anything to say he is a comparable head coach. You know what I mean? It's some. We've seen teams that they don't look good with this one coaching regime. Change the coaching personnel, and then all of a sudden they look good. I don't want to kill Sam Darnold too much because, like I said, he has shown me flashes of being a really good player. But, he's done a lot of things. I'm just like, what is going on here? But I think the fact that he's had to deal with these things with his coaching, because it ain't just Adam Gase. He didn't come in with Adam Gase. The fact he's had to deal with that with coaching, and the fact he doesn't have any weapons really has hindered him a ton. Now, I'm going to, my man Kayson, who used to play for the Jets back in the day. He's on the morning show with ESPN Radio now. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
He actually brought this up. I was listening to the afternoon drive on my way home today. The Cleveland Browns, how bad Baker Mayfield has looked in his first 2 years in the league. We're not, the first year he looked okay, but he didn't have, when the games he was winning, he didn't play anybody good. He was under 500 against teams that were 500 or better. Didn't have a good coach that first season. Didn't have a good coach that second season. Actually, his coach the second season didn't even have experience as a coordinator. He was a coordinator for about like a month or two before he got the head coaching job. They bring in Stefanski to be his head coach. Game 1 didn't look too bad, even though they got smoked. Game 2 looks better. Game 3 looks even better. It looks like it's rolling now. Talking about the personnel change. So I think that's going to be something that the Jets have to do with Darnold. They're not going to get rid of their GM. Joe Douglas has only been there about a year now. I don't think you don't have the sample size to get rid of him anyway. But I mean, I don't think he's done a bad job so far either. But I think that as far as the coaching thing goes, that's got to change somehow. And their situation is a little bit different from the Giants. When I bring in those factors, I think it's easier for you to hold on to Sam Darnold than it is to hold on to Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I definitely can see that point that he's been kind of put in bad situations, but I guess it depends on how much the GM might love him. Like you said, it might be time to switch, to kind of maybe start fresh. But it's going to be interesting. To me, it's going to be interesting how long Le'Veon Bell wants to stay there, too. Things kind of haven't worked out in these first – what's he been there, like 2 years now? Things kind of haven't really worked out. And they just traded I forgot his name, the one who kind of made him want to kind of go to the Jets. Like his name's
Crowder. Oh, no.
I think he was a cornerback.
Safety, Jamal Adams.
Yeah.
But, I mean, him and Jamal Adams ain't even seeing eye to eye now, so.
Yeah, so the person kind of recruited him and it's not there no more. Things haven't kind of been looking great. So it might be time for maybe, like you said, Sam Darnold is in a terrible situation. He has a bad coach. He doesn't really have no weapons. His best weapon is hurt and things like that. So like you said, it'd be easier for the GM to look and be like, okay, maybe we haven't put him in the best situations, and then going forward, we kind of get him in a couple better situations. But that being said, we were kind of just talking about those two top quarterbacks and how if they have a top pick, how one of these GMs can fall in love with one of these top quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence or something like that. So he might just be put in another bad situation where, like, he was put in a bad situation where he looked bad, and then maybe when things can start going right for him or they can start building for him towards the future, someone else just comes and starts to look, you know, you got your toy, but another toy comes and looks a little more shinier. You like, all right, make the move. So it's like he might have just been put in another bad situation where before he really can maybe shine and get the weapons that he needs, they might end up moving him just because they found another great quarterback, which may end up working out for him anyway because he might be able to get somewhere with someone that can build around him a little better and get him some more weapons and things like that, and maybe have a little better coach.
Well, the development aspect of it is crucial, and you don't want to break these guys. Like Mitchell Trubisky just got benched, and the Chicago Bears are 3-0, by the way. Mitchell Trubisky gets benched in that game in that week 3 game when they're down heavy and Nick Foles brings them back to win. You got to think him getting after starting off 2-0. He brought them back to win game 1. They played the Giants week 2. You got it, but and he's 2-0 as a starter to start the season. You got to think that it hurts him, big time up here when he's the first quarterback to be taken off the board in his draft. And we're not going to get into that because we know the other 2 that got taken. But, he's going from that to being benched. I think that's kind of the same thing you got to look at with Sam Darnold, because Sam Darnold was regarded as the best prospect in there, and everybody's talking so highly he's going to be the next great one, coming out of USC, and he's going to be this amazing quarterback for years to come. We haven't seen it, but I think with all that being said, if the Jets are to move, if he's to get moved, the Jets move on from him, maybe he doesn't flourish in another situation because he's already broken.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. But sometimes a new situation can make you feel better. Like you said, having no receivers and a bad coach, you get out there and you got someone that's catching passes, and then you got weapons out there. It may just look better. Just sometimes you just need a quick refresh, a quick start, some new people around you to it's a restart. So you don't want to go into a restart with a bad feeling. I think he might like that better than getting benched for like Trevor Lawrence or something like that. I think if you keep him and bench him for a couple of years, that may be hurt his spirit. But if they bring the new quarterback in and then kind of get rid of him right away, I think just that might motivate him. 1, 2, just being in another spot may be like refreshing and things like that. So he might be able to get caught before he's maybe a little too broken if they kind of get rid of him right away. So maybe that happened and things can kind of maybe start working out for him. But it's gonna be real interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, Denzel Mims still isn't back, so I want to see what he looks like, once he gets to play with with Mims, who's, the Jets' second, pick in their draft. And also maybe you get Greg Williams and like you fire Adam Gase and let Greg Williams be your interim coach, see what he can do from there, and yeah, we'll reevaluate things at the end of the season. But week 4 is coming. Don't get your hopes up, especially if you're the Giants because you're playing the Rams. Don't expect to win that game. It's going to be a long season for New York fans, unless you're a fan of the Bills, because, they're doing pretty good right now. Before we get out of here, there was a Monday night game that was supposed to be for the ages between Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson's Kansas City Chiefs versus the Baltimore Ravens. It was entertaining for a bit. At points, the Kansas City Chiefs really opened it up on them. Then Baltimore comes back to make it a one-score game, 27-20. The Chiefs come back and end up closing them out. I want to start off like this, man. Y'all need to stop going at my man Lamar like this. Lamar is 21-1 as a starter against every NFL team except the Chiefs because of Patrick Mahomes. He's 0-3 against Patrick Mahomes. But Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback I think I've ever seen in my life. And this is coming from a guy who praises Aaron Rodgers daily. The Kansas City Chiefs are the defending Super Bowl champs. He just, for whatever reason, has these mental blocks against the Kansas City Chiefs. But, to come at him and talk about how, he's just not a good passer and all that and everything. Look, he is the most accurate rookie we ever. This is all statistically fact. Most accurate rookie we ever seen. Year 2, he got better with his accuracy. Year 3, he's in year 3 right now, and he's outside of last night. He's looked very good. Let's pump the brakes on killing him a little bit. I'm not saying he's got the greatest arm talent we've ever seen in the world, but he's not this terrible passer or anything like that. Yes, he's a running quarterback, but he does things with his arm as well. I still liken him to Mike Vick 2.0 because I think he throws the ball better than Mike Vick did. He's still got tremendous arm strength, but they go as he goes. I think they're going to be good. And you know what? As long as because the Titans got some COVID tests and things might be going on over there, but if we get a full NFL season, we get playoffs, everything, I'm banking on Lamar winning his first playoff game. Y'all need to leave my man alone. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just because he's a running quarterback. I think that a lot of people are going to always kind of want more out of him as a passer. I think that's just something that people are kind of gonna want to just do to him because he runs a lot and different things like that. But like you said, his passing deserves a lot more credit and things like that. But I think people aren't going to be able to see it as long as he's doing so much things with his feet. I can't knock him too much against the Chiefs. Did you see that offense? The offense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
how are you gonna kill the Chiefs offense and you got Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and Cole Hardman? Like they've got weapons for days over there to complement this all-time great. Patrick Mahomes is that dude. Come on. And then you got Andy Reid as your head coach. Come on, man.
Yeah, definitely. I can't blame him too much against the Chiefs. I'm watching against the Chiefs. I'm watching the game. I'm just like that offense is ridiculous. I know a lot of people have been kind of saying that the Chiefs don't look like how they expected them to look and things like that. But like with Super Bowl teams and championship teams in general, you kind of have that championship hangover. But the big games, the Monday night games, the national televised games, you get up for. And I think last night they got up for that and just showed us how dominant that offense is. And then, of course, that is another thing that's going to make people want more out of him because it's kind of like, well, look at what Mahomes and them are doing. You do that, but I don't think you can do that for him. I can't blame him too much against the Chiefs. That offense is just ridiculous.
Yeah, man. Like they, outside of the one game against the Chargers, like they've just been a problem. And the other thing too, like okay, look, the game with the Chargers was close. Notice how this is another point that I heard made today that makes complete sense. Because look, when the Ravens tried to blitz Lamar. When the Ravens tried to blitz Patrick Mahomes last night, he got the best of them. The Chargers were the one team that didn't try to go blitz on Patrick Mahomes and actually hung around with them. So I think moving forward, it is weird. You do not want to blitz Patrick Mahomes. And they actually figured that out second half, but by the time they figured it out, it was already too late.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, that offense is just crazy, especially if you can't really kind of blitz him and you don't want to give him too much time. So you probably think you blitz him to get the ball out of his hand faster. But if he's able to make great things in situations, make great things happen like that in situations like that, it's kind of like, what could you really do? Like I said, I'm not blaming them too much against the Chiefs. The Chiefs, that offense is just ridiculous.
Yeah, Lamar's gonna come out next week. He's gonna have a hell of a game, and y'all gonna stop talking about his throwing ability and things like that because he ain't. Yeah, they actually, that was the thing coming into this game. We talking about how they starting to really respect Lamar's arm now. Y'all need to get back to it because it's gonna make you look foolish pretty soon.
I think as long as he does so much running, I think people are always going to try to criticize his passing because it's like you're watching Patrick Mahomes throw the ball down the field all ridiculous and things like that, and then you see him running a lot more. So it's kind of like now unless he's going to run and get me like 5 touchdowns a game, I think people are just going to be like it's really one of those like apples oranges things. Like if I people who believe in the pass and things like that, like you should have a quarterback who should be all all of a passer. You're going to complain about him running no matter how good his arm is.
He's not that guy though, and that's okay. People need to understand it's okay that he's not that guy. But like it's not like he's this trash passer and all he can do is run. He can sling that ball too. Okay, can I go there? Can I go there? Y'all only talking. I'm gonna go there. Y'all are talking like this because the racial aspect. Let's be real.
I definitely feel you. I definitely feel you. Like I said, people need to learn that you can be both in a lot of situations. It could be both. There could be two things that are right sometimes. So in this case, he could be a great running quarterback and a great passing quarterback too, or at least a decent passing quarterback. So like people need to know that it could be both. It's not one or the other. Like I said, there's just some people out there who just think like, oh, since he runs so much, it's just hurting them because he's not passing the ball and things like that. And people just need to, cut him some slack and just appreciate greatness.
Yeah, man. I think that's the thing we saw. Like I saw they were talking about that on First Take today. Did we learn more about Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes? I don't. I think we know who they are. He hasn't played well against the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, it's unfortunate that he said it because I didn't want to hear that coming from Lamar Jackson. But it's kind of true. Maybe they're just their kryptonite. But I think we know who they are at this point, and it's not like, okay, he's just not that dude because he couldn't get it done against the Kansas City Chiefs. He didn't play like garbage. He just, they came up a little short. He made some errors and things like that, and it is what it is.
Yeah, definitely. They're still young too, so it's like sometimes you have that hump that you need to get over. Bron needs to get over the Celtics and things like that. So sometimes you just have that team that you need to get over. So he's still got some time. He's only getting better. So I think eventually, if he's gonna be able to get past them, hopefully. So don't cut him too short. He's still got some time.
Yeah, man, definitely. But we'll keep checking on that. I'm just like, I said it. Remember, I said he gonna win his first playoff game. Don't care. And, all this, the Steelers are back on top and everything. Steelers are very good now that Ben's back. They're gonna make the playoffs. I bet you they don't win that division. I bet you Baltimore repeats as the division champ there too. But it is what it is.
It's gonna be interesting because now that you don't get that double bye and you only get one bye. So it's going to be interesting to see because they might end up having to play. I think they were talking about it last night on the broadcast. Like that loss last night might count as like 2 losses because they might end up not 2 losses. Like 2 losses because now you got to kind of catch the Chiefs and you're going to end up playing in the first, what would it be? Not the first round.
Baltimore playing that first. They're not getting a bye. I think it's the Chiefs will have the best record. They'll get that bye in the AFC, and then the NFC, we'll see. I don't know who's going to have the best record in the NFC to get that bye, but the Chiefs for sure are going to get that bye in the AFC.
So the Ravens may end up not getting the bye, so they were kind of talking about that on there. So that's going to be interesting to see how kind of all that plays out.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. Before we get out of here, you got anything else? We got anything else?
I guess, we kind of brought it up for a second, talking about the Chicago quarterbacks. You think Chicago stays with Foles, or you think they go back to Trubisky?
They said Foles is going to start this week. And I think Ryan Clark at ESPN made it interesting. He said this when it was announced that Mitch Trubisky was going to be the starter going into the season. It is easier for Matt Nagy and company to go from Mitch to Foles than it is to go from Foles to Mitch. And I think this is what Chicago wanted to do. Okay, let's go. I'm watching a playoff game right now. Sorry. So it's easier for them to go to Foles than Mitch, like he was saying. But I think Chicago wanted to do this all. Matt Nagy and company wanted to do this all along. They know Foles pretty well. From his past stops, they've all interacted. The coaching staff in Chicago has been with Foles in some type of role with his, other stops. And, Foles is proven, he's a Super Bowl champ, stepping in for Carson Wentz when he got hurt over in Philly and, did his thing over there. And then, steps up, when Carson Wentz gets hurt the next year and, wins a playoff game for them. He didn't look too good in Jacksonville, but, he did the thing last week. And I unfortunately, it's probably over for Mitch Trubisky as a starting quarterback over there and possibly for the rest of his career.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens there because I guess, like you said, they like Foles and things like that. But Atlanta, what's going on with Atlanta? They've been blowing the lead every game.
Atlanta needs to fight Arthur Blank. Get rid of your head coach. It's over. It's you blew a big lead in the Super Bowl. You blew a big lead last week, and you blew a big lead this week. It's over, man. You got to move on. Get another coach in there. Possibly another coach. If they look bad, if Atlanta has a top pick, you better – it's crazy because Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields are actually both Georgia boys too. You better get one of those two guys because as much as I like Matty Ice, I think his time over there might, be coming to a close. And I'd actually start him for another season over one of those guys. But some changes got to be made in Atlanta, man, and it's definitely personnel to me because that's historic that you blow big leads like that 2 weeks in a row, and you're a part of Super Bowl history blowing that lead. Like, yeah, it's time to make a change. That's
Yeah,
better.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. So it's gonna be interesting to see what Foles, because it was it Atlanta blowing another lead, or was he playing great? So it's gonna see. He say he's gonna be the starter going into next week, and I think he deserves that. So he'll probably keep it going forward. But I wonder if he doesn't look great next week, do they consider going back to Mr. Trubisky? Considering maybe you just be like, maybe Atlanta just blew another lead.
And we'll see. I think it's gonna be telling. I think the performance we get from Foles will definitely be telling, but. Hey, we'll see. Talk about that too. Like, how long does Carson Wentz have left before they start thinking about making that change to Jalen Hurts over in Philly? Since we on that quarterback conversation.
Yeah, that'd be interesting too. I don't know. You gotta see. What are the Eagles 0-3 now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's gonna be see how long. If they continue to lose, it'd be interesting to see how quick they
No. I'm saying they're 0-3. They're 0-2-1.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because I remember they were talking about it. They decided not to go for it, and they went. They lost in overtime.
Well, tied with the Bengals.
Yeah, tied.
Joe Burrow's that dude, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. So it's gonna be interesting to see if they continue to lose when they do decide to make the switch. If they do make the switch, so yeah.
Yeah, man. So we'll see you guys next week. Got great content coming for you guys. Can't wait for the finals. I know I didn't pick them, but I'm going to say it anyway. Let's go Heat. And, let's go Yankees. They up 3-0 on the Cleveland Indians right now for that first game, man.